Welcome to the True Sight podcast by Oracle's Elixir, your source for in-depth analytical coverage of professional League of Legends and the rest of the esports world. I'm Tim Magic Sevenhusen. Today we're joined by Tomislav flyy Mihailov, nailed it, the general manager of Rogue from the LEC. How have you been, Fly?
Quite good. It's been pretty crazy off season, pretty busy one, even compared to previous years. So it hasn't been much time off since we came back from Worlds. But hey, like that's why we're in esports. That's what we do. So pretty happy and
Yeah, if
pretty
you're
good.
going to make the trade between staying home from Worlds and having a more comfortable transition into off-season versus going to Worlds and having no rest in between, you're going to go to Worlds, right? Like, obviously.
Yeah, it's not comparable to previous years. And for me, it was it's actually I've been in Liga already roughly 10 years, and that was the first time that I managed to get to Worlds after a couple of years where we lose 3-2 with different teams who goes to Worlds and everything else. So it was quite an exciting, and China was amazing. Like I expected it's gonna be different, but I didn't expect it's gonna be that good different
Hmm. Yeah.
to what had as expectations in the beginning.
Yeah, in like your experience of the event, or you mean like the country itself and the culture there?
Both, like the event, like just think about it. The event itself is what time 2020 is with COVID and everything else that is happening, and to be able to basically have that whole event, the whole world and everything, with the whole production, with the animations, with the songs, everything basically went almost as there was no COVID or nothing, except obviously the live audience, which is the big thing. But everything went pretty smooth, to what we expected that we're gonna face as problems and everything. So big props to Riot on this and the work that they did for this event.
So for those who may not know much about you and your career and your role at Rogue, can you just give us like a really quick summary of like you just mentioned you've been in esports for like 10 years. What have you been doing during that time, and how did you land up being the general manager of Rogue in the LEC?
So to keep it really short, so 10 years it's been in League of Legends. I've been since 2009, so it's more than 10 years at this point. I started in esports in 2003. I come previously from Counter Strike 1.6 and CS:GO. I've worked basically anything that you can think of in organization except financial guy at this point. Before Rogue, I had 5 years in Rocket, with which were those chances to go to Worlds and everything. And then once the application process started for franchise and everything, I started working for Rogue, and we had a simple plan from the beginning. Is we knew that we're coming. We are the only organization in the LEC that actually doesn't have any other connection to League of Legends before joining the LEC. Everyone else had history, like SK Excel was he played in national leagues, if I'm not wrong, and so on and so on. So for us, it was we knew that coming into the franchise, we're gonna be in a massive disadvantage to get the big players and everything else. So we wanted to build a core lineup in the first split while we develop the other players and managed to build over the first 2 years a team, a core of players that we can develop long term. Which, with a little bit of luck, of course, we didn't expect that many of the academy players to develop that fast already in the second split. I think we achieved our goal to this point, getting to Worlds by end of second year. And now we're just looking forward to get more and more, get consistently at Worlds every year, with the core of people that we have.
Cool.
So
So
that's a short version.
yeah, a lot has happened since the last time you and I had like a real conversation about things, I would say. So this year, especially, your team finished first in the summer regular season, third in the playoffs. You guys went to Worlds. You made a couple big roster changes this offseason. Looking back at that entirety of 2020, what kind of stands out to you the most as like the big moment for you? What was the most exciting piece of all that?
Honestly, and it's not something from the team itself, is how underrated we were the whole year. No matter what we do and where we go and everything else, we kept being underrated by people. And this is not on the casters or the LEC cast desk or whatever. That was basically from almost everyone. There weren't many people that, no matter what we did, that believed that we're gonna be good, that we're gonna go there and everything else. And the satisfaction of proving everyone wrong at the end is probably the best part about this year. Like obviously the things that how hard everyone worked, and everyone proved their value on the team, and everything was a big thing. But the satisfaction that we proved everyone wrong, and hopefully going in 2021 to establish ourselves as being one of those three teams in Europe on the top, is what keeps us going forward, basically.
Yeah, it seems like it can take a really long time and a really sustained performance to change the story and like the community perception around you as an organization, especially when, Europe has been so dominated for so long by G2 and Fnatic, and, anybody outside of that, it seems like they don't tend to get as much credit. So, it's going to be a big challenge, I think, in 2021 to continue that success and continue trying to change that story. Looking back at 2020 a little more, take us through the summer split and the way that played out for you guys. Now, might be wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure this is the first time your team has held first place in the league, right?
Uh, I think so. Yeah, yeah.
Other than maybe something in the first week or two where it doesn't really count.
Yeah, well, yeah, like we're not talking about 1 or 2 weeks in the
Yeah.
beginnings, etc. But yeah, it's the first time that we consistently managed to hold it. The thing is, like, we were fighting the whole regular split with Mad Lions to be first and everything. The thing is, I believe we could have had that already in spring split, but the big thing that happened is with COVID going online and everything else is we have a really structured approach around the team of how we prepare, how expectations are set, and all those things. And we were fully prepared and had our routines and everything of going to the studio, playing in the studio, playing on stage, and everything else. And suddenly, from those, we went back to online, which it's completely different play style, the way that you play online and on LAN, and it's completely massive change. We saw it for Mad Lions hit them the other way around. Basically, it's like the moment that we went online, Mad Lions from middle of the table team suddenly became top four, top three. Beat G2, was good on top of the table and everything. Then goes to Worlds, and they on stage they can show up and everything. I think for us it was um, it's a big deal actually playing on stage, and I believe the longer we play on stage the better we are rather than online, the longer that goes. And going into summer we changed completely everything, not completely everything, we kept our main routines, but we changed them to be really similar to the studio, like having the meetings outside of the gaming room. And basically we turned the gaming room to a stage, in a sense, to be able to accommodate that, to get serious about the games. I think a couple of the teams like G2 and Fnatic, big hit for them was also going to online, because for them it's like being so many years of experience playing on stage and being competitive and everything else, and then going online, and you're sitting there and scratching your head and you're like, what am I playing for compared to on stage? Like they get you get fed by the crowd
Yeah.
and that change of environment and that focus and everything, because or else you get complacent after so many years doing basically the exact same thing.
Yeah, so you found a way to make it work in the summer, even with the online play and all of that. You finish first in the regular season. You come into the playoffs. It's the new double elimination format, right? First, you get 3-0'd by Fnatic, then you turn it around, you 3-0 Mad Lions yourselves, and then you fight G2 to a 3-2 series to finish third place. So out of those three series, I imagine the 3-2 series is probably the most memorable, but, is that the one that really kind of stood out to you, or
Actually,
was
the
it in?
Fnatic one, because it hurts that much. Because for us, it's going into the Fnatic. We chose Fnatic, and everything is we should not have lost that best of five at all. But sadly, the 2 weeks coming to into this series, there were multiple outside of the game factors that basically crushed and burned our team for a week. We get held down by a lot of things, and we ended up using our old playstyle rather than fully switching to the new carry, evolution, etc., etc. And Fnatic properly abused that against us. It's something that shouldn't have happened, but happened. So for me, it's the most memorable because if we win over there, we would have been a lot further, and I think we would be able to get the second seed, which obviously wouldn't have hurt us that much for Worlds with the group that we ended up having,
Yeah.
and so on.
How much do you, as a general manager, you look back at the year and say, oh, what if this had happened? What could have been? Like, does that kind of keep you up at night, or is it just something you're able to deal with and move on from?
Like some people get affected by it in the team, definitely. Like shoulda, woulda, coulda, as I like to say. But for me, it's like I've been so many years over here. I've the big series versus Origin that went 50-minute games, and Saturday went to Worlds, or the 2014 Rocket versus Fnatic best of five going to fifth game, and then Fnatic going top four at Worlds that year and everything else. It's like I've been through way too many of those series at this point to think about them backwards. It's we learn from them and we go forward and we make sure that this same mistake doesn't happen forward. That's why experience is there. It's to be able to learn from it and not repeat the same mistake, basically. So the most memorable for me is Fnatic again because it hurt the most. But of course, the G2 one was a harsh one because all 5 games were pretty, like, especially fifth game was backwards and forwards and everything, and a little bit experience and stability basically wasn't enough for us to actually beat G2 and go versus Fnatic in the final. Such.
Yeah, and it's tough. Like, even if you have developed this skill set of being able to absorb something and move on from it, and not let it eat away at you, you can't help but think a little bit about it because like you kind of already mentioned, going into Worlds, you got drawn into this group with Damwon and JDG, and PSG Talent, a pretty decent team as well. Just probably the worst possible set of teams you could be drawn against, given the way that the seeds all played out. And
Yeah,
you go ahead.
yeah, go on. Sorry to interrupt.
Just gonna say, you have to think in a different set of teams. The outcome could have been. You never know. Like maybe it goes the same way against some other teams, but it could have been very different. You guys did manage to pick up one win over PSG. You avoided the 0-6 that some teams did not avoid. But given the way that group job played out, it can't have been all that much fun to watch your team play through those games. Just have a certain feeling going into it.
It definitely wasn't as fun as playing versus G2 in the play of the best of five and everything else, but it was a really good experience for everyone because obviously this year, when we went to Worlds, especially when we got put, mainly when we got put in that group, the expectations are not like we're gonna crush them, we're gonna be out of the group, etc. We need to like and everything else. Like there were 2 groups at Worlds that were super hard. That was A and B, and any of the other groups. That's the only regret that we have is we felt that any of the other groups that we've been to, we had a pretty good chance to actually make it through the group. It was a little bit disappointing for first Worlds to end up in that group, but we didn't go into playing the matches. Um, like we didn't go into the matches being like we've already lost. Let's just use it as a learning experience. We actually thought that we can win some of the games and everything, and some small mistake costed us the second JD game. That one was just on completely different level than any other
Yeah.
team at Worlds, I think.
Yeah.
So there's nothing there. I think that this year that we could have done more to actually win. They're just too much of a complete team. And versus JD, the second game I think we could have won, but some small unfortunate things happened that costed us the game. And versus PSG, the last game we were just trying to show something different and to just enjoy a little bit more the game, and so on. It's last game of Worlds, last game of the season, and everything else. And the guys really wanted to win that game, but we played a little bit different than what we usually play, and it felt really bad, the way that we lost the JD game. So obviously the mental aspect over there
Yeah.
costed us the last game, in my opinion. But it was a really good setup for where we want to be next year and how we want to learn from it and such. And we got to experience a lot of different things that we did not expect up front and prepared properly for, with the quarantine and everything. I think we, like, considering how it was, we could have done a little bit better job, and so on. But now we're prepared for next year, and that's the goal, to get back over there and this time be prepared for everything that we weren't this year and be better and kick some
In
B
terms of
tier.
in terms of benefiting from a trip to Worlds, to some extent you benefit from playing against these really high level teams, both on stage and in scrims as well. How much do I'd say two other ways that you might benefit from it. One is just the kind of the experience of being in that environment and having such a hype, like all the maybe the stress of it and learning how to deal with that, and then the other one being being able to play in the the Chinese super server solo queue and all of that. How important do you think both of those two pieces were to kind of the experience and what your team gained from it?
Massively. I think the trip itself, every trip for the team, considering we're playing, even when without COVID, we're playing every week here in the studio and so on. And you go once a split to an event,
Hmm.
and going to an event is a lot more team bonding than having your regular schedule daily over here. It's a lot of more things get developed, and you learn a lot more, a lot faster by just being so close to each other and everything. Which obviously you can't have the whole year, because then your whole team is gonna overburn being nonstop together. So going to events, this is a big benefit. Then the Chinese solo queue, that's more of a, hey, the players need to answer that. My experience was 0-9, no, 1-9 in the
Okay.
first 10 games, and I didn't play Chinese solo queue after that. I switched to TFT. But I think they enjoyed it pretty much. Simply playing with so many different big players from around the world that they didn't have the chance to. And the Chinese server, to what I've heard them talk about, is a lot more aggressive and a lot more faster games. Most of the games finished 15-20 minutes at max. So I think they enjoyed it pretty a lot. But I think the biggest difference that Worlds makes for those players is actually the scrims and getting to experience all those different styles and all those different teams. Because um, with those teams, your mistakes get, like, in Europe, when you scrim most of the teams, you get away with a lot of mistakes that don't get punished, basically, and you don't notice them as massive as you would when they get punished. And at Worlds, scrimming all those teams, um, for one, is your mistakes get exposed a lot more. You can't make mistakes because they punish you nonstop on them. And the second thing is, seeing that we can actually match some of those teams brings a lot of more confidence when you're coming for next year, because now we know that yes, they're really strong, but they're not like levels, except Damwon and Sunning. No one else was like levels ahead of the others. And we believe that going into next year we can actually do a lot better and we feel a lot more confident and secure on that. Obviously, we first need to make it there and qualify, but that's
Yeah.
completely different topic.
Yeah. So teams were allowed to bring 6 players to the event, right? Who was the 6th player you guys brought along?
It was Nico, Blue Knight,
Okay.
from us. He is half a player, half analyst.
Okay.
Basically, his official position with us, to put it that way, is head of analytics, but he's a high elo player. So for us, it was really valuable to have him with us to be able to non-stop explore in person all the options for the players, builds, workarounds, scouting solo queue accounts properly for them, and non-stop running the mat around what is good for the players to play and whatnot.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting, the different approaches different organizations took, because especially this year where the actual, I think they restricted a lot more who you could bring with and the number of staff and all that kind of thing. So, I
Correct,
think some
correct.
some orgs had to be a lot more strategic about who you're bringing along. Are you bringing someone, who you just want to get the solo queue practice from, say, an academy team or whatever it is, and you're doing it just for their sake, for your player development? Are you doing it for, like you guys, more of a strategic, a little bit more of the coaching value to it? So yeah,
So
this is
so for me
interesting to
there were,
hear.
yeah, for me there was two things that we considered: who do we bring with, and so on. Is because um one thing is we actually needed him at Worlds, and he brings a lot of extra information and basically a lot more access to data in person. You can turn around and ask him in the same room. It's a lot faster and easier,
Hmm.
and which is the what we wanted for the team at Worlds. And the second thing for us was we're not gonna just sign a new player to come with us. If we bring a player like high caliber player, it will be from our academy. And
Hmm.
the EU Masters event was during quarantine in China for us. So that would mean that the player needs to not play in EU Masters. And we have a really like we have put so much time and resources into working on academy, that if we bring a single player, that throws the whole team off in
Yeah.
EU Masters, and that risks the future career of every single player on that academy team. So for us, it was like, and even if he has to sub and everything, the difference between that player and Nico wouldn't be that massive, because it's still gonna throw the team completely off.
Yeah.
It's gonna be still completely different. It's gonna be different practice, different setup, and everything else. Those players haven't been with the main team the whole year practicing with them. So the advantages of actually breaking up the academy team and bringing one person from over there just for the trip to be a tourist basically over there and play solo queue in China, it wasn't worth it for us. So it was really important for those players in academy to show what they're capable of, to be able to move to LCS and LEC, which all
Yeah.
of them right now have done basically.
It makes me wonder whether EU Masters will get shifted around, or even if they can. But ideally, I think it'd be nice if they shifted around EU Masters so it didn't overlap with that period, because with
Yeah,
NA Academy, for example, all of those guys were done and wrapped up, so they had the option to bring one of those players. Like Team Liquid bringing Jenkins, for example.
yeah,
It seems like it'd be beneficial.
I think it was specifically this year. Last year it wasn't like that.
Hmm.
There wasn't the conflict of timing and everything else. I think it was just this year with COVID that was the best solution for scheduling and everything else. Because we
Yeah.
have never been in that kind of conditions as this year.
No, we have
So
not.
it was, it was the bestly done. And I actually think it's not that bad, because if you notice, you had a consistent League of Legends content
Hmm.
tournaments going throughout the whole time. You had finishing playoffs of the different leagues. Then you had EU Masters during quarantine, etc. Then you have only 1 week break of League of Legends. Then you go into Worlds. Worlds finishes 1 or 2 weeks break, and then you have those Winter Cups in the national leagues and everything. So there was a consistent League of Legends content, and I think it's actually not too bad. It creates extra hype and prepares people for Worlds. that are like
Yeah.
the hard fans of League of Legends.
Yeah, some
Basically.
trade-offs for sure.
Yep. And
Yeah,
and
that makes
it's
sense.
yeah, and it's exactly at the time where all the teams that are not going to Worlds have already finished their season, and they can actually properly focus with their head coachings and everything and watch that event. Because at the end, the whole purpose of that event is to promote the talent from over there to LEC and eventually LCS when they're interested. And and let's be fair, head coaches are not going to be preparing for playoffs and at the same time watching the finals of their academy league and
Yeah.
everything. Well, this way it's actually open time that people can properly watch and fully focus on that and see who's good and who's not, so people get chances to get promoted.
Yeah, definitely. While you were at Worlds, it seems like a lot of teams tend to, find certain scrim partners that just work out a little better with them. Were there certain teams that you guys scrimmed more than others while you were there?
A lot of sunning
Yeah.
for not our benefit. To put it that way.
I'm sure you guys
We
taught them a few things.
uh I don't think so. No, it was fine. It's joke aside. We mainly focused on scrimming Chinese and Korean teams over there, and some of the LCS teams. At the end, for us, it was we didn't mind if we lose games over there because we knew that we were over there to learn the most that we can. So for us, it wasn't about that much about building confidence and beating every team, choosing the weak teams. We wanted to get the full experience of, as Jankos likes to say, getting stomped by the Asians. So we focus mainly on Chinese and Korean teams.
Okay.
Well, over there. I don't. I think we haven't scrimmed a single European team while being there.
Sure. No, I think there are pretty clear reasons for that. That you're pretty experienced with them as well. Less opportunity to learn something new. Transitioning a little bit on from there, did the performance of the team at Worlds influence your plans for the off season at all? Like, do you go into Worlds having? I'm sure you have a bit of an idea who's going to be a free agent, what's going to be available, but does the experience at Worlds change what your plans might be for who you might be trying to sign or players you might try to replace, anything like that?
Fully, yes. There were no decisions or anything made by us before Worlds was fully finished. Like literally, the last matches, like those 3 matches in the second week, were a big decision maker on what direction we go for in 2021. Is the thing is, everyone thinks that hey, this player is good, this player is bad, etc., etc. For us to reach where we were, to get G2 to 5 games, this G2 that was pretty strong, went top 4. Look at the players that they have, and everything, and we got them to 5 games and everything. That means that all 5 players have something that they're bringing to the table to be good. And we had an idea towards going into Worlds, what direction it might be, but we didn't make any decisions or anything until the very last moment after Worlds to what exactly we're doing and what we want to do. Our focus was fully on Worlds and trying to perform the best we can over there. So that's what we focused mainly. And after we finished the last 3 matches, we sat down the next couple of days, even still in Shanghai, and we discussed what are the options and everything, and we started pushing towards people more strong.
Sure, that
And
makes
so
sense. So let's talk about the actual changes you did make. You've
Mhm.
replaced your top laner and you promoted Trymbi from your academy team into the LCS at support. Uh, which of those two moves, signing Odoamne at top lane and promoting Trymbi, which of those are you most excited about, or can you just not pick a favorite?
so excited. Both. I can say I'm less excited about once, but it's different reasons why I'm excited for the different moves.
Sure.
And so first, I think that the bigger one that people are questioning and why it's Trimby over Vander, considering Vander's performance. Like Vander is still for me top 3, top 4, and the way that organizations treated him this off season is something that just blows my mind. But that aside, is for me, it's first of all, to put it on one side, Hans needs someone that consistently nonstop plays solo queue, and he can nonstop brainstorm the game about and everything. Which with a veteran like Vander, he plays a lot. Don't get me wrong, but it's not the same level that and complete drive that a rookie has. Rookie plays 24/7. He doesn't stop playing. And Hans, after how many years he's playing, five, six, seven, at this point, after so many years, Kansas every year feels like a rookie
Hmm.
because he doesn't stop playing and trying to learn the game even more and more and more. And for us, it was, is Trymbi, like we were watching closely Trymbi even before we went to Worlds, on our being in our academy and everything. We had access to voice comms, we had access to scrims and everything else. We knew that he's really good. The thing was, did we believe that Trimby is gonna be eventually better than Vander, even if it's not in spring split? Is he by summer split, end of summer split, be better than Vander? And how is he gonna fit with Hans and the rest of the team? And what we believe is a drive in the team also is that having that rookie that is just hungry to play more and prove himself more, and everything that drives everyone else around him a lot more, basically. And Trimby is that person that we don't believe the taking the risk on him is that high, because the kid is extremely talented and he has shown it, and his comps and everything do not differ that much from Vander's. Uh, to basically make it worse for us. So what we're having over here is we're promoting another rookie from our academy, our own academy, which establishes more our development program and everything long term, which is a small bonus of what we're doing over here. And then it's a player that we believe currently is around Vander's level, but being in the LEC and learning even more from the rest is gonna be long term even better than what Vander could be. Like, we eventually want to be the best, and right now there's not many of the best that you can buy on the market. Like in Europe right now, it's Mickey S, Kilisang, then a little bit of space, and then it's Vander.
Hmm.
And it's either you're gonna buy Mickey from G2, which we now know how likely that is to
Yeah.
happen, and everything. Either we had to wait for Hilisang and pray that he comes, etc., etc. And even then, Hilisang has a lot of flip moments and everything, and is a complete veteran. Which with Trimby, we believe he can rise to the level of Mickey X and Hilisang with a little bit of time. And
Great.
that's the reason that we promoted him over Vander. It's not that Vander is bad or we have massive internal issues with Vander or anything else like this. This is BS. It's just we believe that Trimby can actually be better and can get us to even higher level than this. And for top laners, sadly, the top laners in Europe are not that wide. The first thing that I need to answer is that a lot of people are asking is, why didn't we just promote Shigenda? For us, it was, who's better, Trimby or Shigenda? Do we promote Shigenda Kim Vander, or do we get a stable, good top laner from Europe, and so on, which Odoamne fits perfectly. I'm gonna explain a little bit the idea in a
Sure.
second. But we can have both Shigenda and Trimby, because that might take way too much time for the expectations that we have right now. So for us, it was a choice, one of the two, because we still want to achieve and be on the top. We want to get better from here on, and we need to get better basically not in 2 years. Now it's not another 2 year project. Is we need year by year to get better and more stable. And what happens if you promote both Shigenda and Trimby is you're going to be good in 2022. In
Hmm.
2021, it's a project in development. Obviously, you have the chance to get better, and they both of them exploding and everything else. But considering we have still three pretty young people in the other three positions, it's not something that we are completely stable and consistent to promote something like this and do something like this. So for us, it was Trymbi just looked way too freaking good to pass on. So we promoted Trymbi and we explored what options we go on in top lane. We even run some tryouts to see and everything. And to be fair, Finn was an option about Finn staying. Finn is not a bad player. He had some issues during the year and summer split. Like in spring split, he was freaking smashing people all around, but just he had a bad summer split. For inside outside of the game reasons, he just had a bad split, let's say. And I wouldn't even call it a bad split. Like he played bad versus Alfari, Buipo, and Wonder from G2 versus everyone else. He had really good games almost always, and he had carry games, he had tank games, he had all those. Just the level that we're playing and the level that people expect us to play when we go first in the regular split and everything is that every single player is gonna play super carry, gonna be flashy and everything else in those games versus G2. But you can't. Like G2 read us pretty good and how to isolate Finn and put him in his corner. And they punished us for it. And this wasn't only on Finn. I still think aside from those three top laners, then it's only Finn, Odoamne, and then it's everyone else. Like the difference between the top laners, it's quite big for me. Um, and what made us choose Oduamne is first of all look at the history of the guy, and he hasn't had like every time that he has had a really stable team around him, he can play carries, tanks, and everything else. But the experience that he brings to that lineup to compensate for the experience that we're losing from Vander's loss is just enormous. Which is why we made the decision at the end going with Odo. And we believe that people are going to see a different Odoamne, a lot better Odoamne than what they've seen already, which says quite a bit considering how good he played already this year with the Schalke miracle run and everything else.
Yeah. Going back to Trymbi for a minute, what kind of what style should we expect out of him? What type of support? What's kind of the unique flavor that he's going to bring to the team? Do you think?
Hillesank.
Yeah.
You're gonna see him like the no matter how behind we were in those scrims that we played after Worlds a little bit and everything, the kid just found different ways to bring us back in games with being with flashy plays, being with his usage of Fog of War and all those things. The I'm really excited for the kid. I think people are gonna be really pleasantly surprised, but with what he brings to the team and to the LEC in general.
Yeah, if he gets even just a little bit of the Hylissang excitement and flashiness and playmaking, that'll be a lot of fun to watch, and hopefully something that attracts a lot of people to watch Rogue games.
The example that I'll give is there was a Trinity Force Cup in Poland, like that Winter Cups in the ERLs and everything, and versus Kick, and Kick are pretty good team. He 1v2 them under 1v2 1v3 them 2 or 3 times around turret as a support on Nani. And yeah, I think we're gonna at some point release a little bit highlight moments from him because he has quite a bit of them in EU Masters, Trinity Force Cup, and solo queue.
Cool. No, that sounds exciting. We'll look forward to that. You spoke a little bit about Finn and the decision to bring in Odoamne and move Finn on. He definitely did receive a lot of negative coverage on the LEC and Worlds broadcasts and a lot of negative sentiment from the wider community. Do you, as a GM, do you pay attention to that kind of stuff very much? And is it something that bothers you when it happens about your players?
Well, it happens definitely. It doesn't bother me as much anymore because it's kind of normal at this point. and I come from sports before that, so over there it's even harsher
Mhm.
and everything. So it's something that we need to deal with and definitely control and maintain and everything. But the thing is, what happened to Finn is from one of the most hyped rookies and people expecting him to explode and everything, which he did quite a bit of games and everything. Remember last year's playoffs, the Atrox 1v3 play versus Schalke, then the 2v5, him and Larsen at Baron, where they got the Baron and aced everyone, and so on and so on. Finn is really good, but what I believe happened to him is we lost some games that we shouldn't have lost, and he got to be the scapegoat of why Rogue is not winning everything and so on. And this was not fair to him, to put it that way. There were multiple reasons why we lost games and everything. Were there games that he screwed up and costed us a game? Yeah, obviously, but that was for almost every player on the team. And it's cheesy, yes, but overall you win or lose as a team at the end. Is if he played bad, yeah, then yeah. But most of the games that he looked bad is he was set up in that way, and not only by that we made mistakes or anything else, but teams look to abuse that weakness that we didn't play that much around top lane properly, and everything else. So I think, is he the best top laner in Europe? No. Is he one of the better ones? Yes. I think he's top four, top five in Europe in the LEC from last year. He was better than a lot of the other mid laners, the other top laners, and such. So I think the hate that he got was quite undeserved to what his qualities were overall. Like, you're allowed to have one or two bad months here and there. They're humans at the end. So yeah, I don't think, I think him going to COG right now is actually gonna show people how good he is, because I think in the LCS and how the game is played over there and everything, he's gonna be one of the better ones, and I think he's gonna surprise people, and I think COG made a really good choice with him.
Is when a player is getting, kind of this negative, snowball against them in terms of the way the community is perceiving them or what the narratives around them are. Do you have certain strategies as a management team or as a coaching team to help them deal with that? I'm sure some players have a harder time with it than others, and how much they read social media and how much they pay attention to these things. But having been around for a while as a manager, and the coaching staff you work with, you've had a lot of experience with this, with at least the same head coach. Have you guys kind of developed some tools and some other things that you use to help the players with those situations?
I don't want to go too much into details what we do in those situations, but what I can say is it's really case by case and player by player, because some players, it really depends on what we do, really depends on how much the player is affected by those things. Because you have players like, I would give the Larsen as an example. He really doesn't care what people say. Like, it doesn't motivate him extra, it doesn't demotivate him or anything else. He just looks at the game and goes into the game with the same mindset. For him, it's more important the people that are around him and his teammates and everything than everyone around. And he he doesn't look that much into the public opinion overall. He doesn't go on Reddit, Twitter that often, and everything. So it's really case by case on what the player is, and obviously you have the normal methods of cutting off social media, access to social media, and everything else. Having one-on-ones talks, why people are perceiving it that way, and all those things, and finding a way to just keep moving forward. Lucky for us, it's, even though it's not good, but it's not like, it's not super bad in Europe, at least yet. We're lucky compared to Korea and China
Hmm.
and the fan bases that they have over there. Their fan bases are going close to what football fan bases are and everything. We're not there yet. Um, we have a lot of toxic kids, but those are kind of normal at this point.
Yeah.
So it's yeah, it's I think it's really player by player how you attack it, and hopefully one of your next episodes can be with Eastman. He can go a lot more deeper in working on those things.
Sure. I think on the North American side of things, we're definitely going to be hoping that Finn can, start to redeem some of that narrative about himself, that he can perform well and show people how good of a player he actually can be. So we'll be watching for that. I'm sure you'll be paying attention to him as well, and trying to cheer him on.
We
Let's
have a
talk a little.
reason we have a reason to watch LCS now.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about your academy system, and you have promoted Trymbi out of it, and you've had other good players come out, even if they're not going to be playing in your organization anymore. Going into 2021, have you guys finalized your lineup there?
Yeah. We just finalized it 2 nights ago. The roster. Obviously, you're gonna have to wait and see what the roster is, but it's the similar mentality to what we have. You need to have one or two tentpole, a little bit more experienced people that can lead the rookies and develop the rookies. Because and I'm gonna give it as an example with FlyQuest. I think it was FlyQuest. Yeah, FlyQuest and Golden Guardians did is FlyQuest found a core and got the rookies around that core. That means you're not taking a risk on 5 players, and you have one or two really stable people that those rookies can rely on even when they make the mistakes and everything else. While in the other scenario where you go full rookies and everything, is you have way bigger chance that one of those rookies is going to fail, because you take a risk on 5 people instead of 2 3. And what happens then is everyone else on the team, all the other rookies, suffer from the those one or two failures. Basically, you don't have that stabilizing point, which means it's going to take a lot more time, and the rookie is going to develop almost in all scenarios. The rookie is going to develop only if it's a flashy rookie that is doing all the plays and everything else. It's not going to be a full team development where they're stable, good players for long term that are going to be consistent and everything else. So I really like doing that approach where you build, like, you don't put a lot of money in 5 rookies to develop all 5 and everything else. You get in 2 3 and you focus on developing them and pushing them forward and making sure they succeed. And with that is all the more veterans around them actually get to shine and be seen by everyone else also.
So
I
who
hope I
was that? Yeah, who were those stabilizing players for you in the academy team this year?
Woolite, definitely. Someone with a lot of experience. The beginning of the year, that was Mystics. Mystic has quite a bit of experience at this point. It was Woolite and Mystics where they led the rookies to a certain point. And in summer, going into Trymbi, it was basically Mystics giving the mantle to Zanzara. Zanzara was pretty much ready at this point to take over a lot more the calling and the control. So the Trimby thing, as I said earlier, his Trimby's comms right now are on a level of almost on a LEC player, high rank LEC player, which led to a lot easier transition to one player like that when Zanzara and Trimby were already compensating and making that second person that you need basically. Plus,
Okay.
if you look at the games and everything, is look at Woolite's statistics. He's 10, 12, 13, 14 kills every single game. It's a lot easier to play when you have an AD carry like this.
Yeah, and I'm sure just with the experience that he has, his ability to share, this is what it's like being a pro, and to lead by example and those kinds of things. That's a definitely a great thing to have. So, are you going to be, again, you're not ready to kind of put that whole lineup public, but are you moving forward with Woolite? Or are you finding a different veteran, something there?
Can't comment on that.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah, like it's organizations are not ready to announce and everything, so I'm gonna wait up a little
Fair
bit.
enough.
We can discuss that later. Yeah,
uh,
it's Fnatic upset, not Woolite. Sadly, it should have been Fnatic Woolite, but yeah, didn't work.
um, how much of, as an organization, how much of your time and your effort is spent building and supporting the academy team compared to how much time you spend on the LEC team? Do you have like a completely separate management staff that does most of the work on that, or do you put 20% of your time into the academy side?
In off season, I would say is 70-30. Main team comes first, and then 30-40% of my time then goes into academy and everything. I work really closely with the coaching that I have in academy and everything. Um, and obviously over there we have a really good partner, Ago in Poland, with which we've been working this whole year. That basically provides all the conditions, extra small management like flights, travel, accommodations, everything that usually I would be doing over here with Alex in Berlin is done by them. So I can focus on just handpicking who's playing for us together with the coaching staff and everything. And Bloomy helps from main team. Bloomington, our assistant coach in main team, helps quite a bit on that also. So we do big effort to help in the off seasons. During the season is a lot more harder because there's a lot more work during the season with around the team. So we treat them kind of as a separate project that help each other rather than one big project altogether as some other teams, um, which has benefits and negatives to it. But yeah, that's pretty much how we worked. And this year is we finished pretty fast with the main team and what we were doing with them. So the moment that we finished there, my full focus was on building only the academy team in the last 2-3 weeks.
Sure, that makes sense, and it kind of does make sense. You start with making sure the LEC team has everything it needs, and then you kind of finish off the rest of it and kind of build out the bottom of that kind of talent pipeline to make sure the whole thing is flowing smoothly.
Yep.
Great. Well, yeah, this has all been really interesting. I want to kind of move towards wrapping things up with a question from a listener. And for those who may not have had a chance to submit questions before, I do post about this on Twitter and Discord and give people a chance to comment on a Patreon post in advance of these most episodes. So pay attention to those, and you'll have opportunities in the future to ask questions of the guests. But I am not the NSA submitted a question. And we've talked through some of the parts of that question, but I'm going to focus in on one part of the question I think we could go into a little more detail on. So what goes into the decision to bring up an academy player versus looking at existing LEC talent and veterans? So in this case, the decision to promote Trymbi rather than, say you were going to replace Vander, looking at a different veteran support to bring in. How do you weigh up kind of the pros and cons of rookies versus veterans in that case?
That's a really good question. It's what I usually like to do is look at all the angles that the player has. Like we're not talking about just player on the rift, then we're looking at communication, then we're looking at why this player behaved that way and how he's going to fit in the team. What was dependent on the player and what was dependent on his team. Did he look good because of his team was playing for him more and everything else? There's this thing that we mention quite often is for AD carry position specifically. AD carry mid is how much of the resources of the team were put into that person and where the team is in the standing, because the lower you're in the standing, when you win games, you remember that flashy player that won you the games and what the resources were put in, etc. And that doesn't mean always those players are not as good as they look in. There's scenarios. I think Patrick is a perfect scenario for that in Excel. That the players are actually good, but sometimes it's the other players making them look good and everything. Then it's about the potential of the player, where we think that player is going to end up. Do we need the stability in this position, as well is the case that I mentioned earlier with Trymbi and Odo and everything? Do we need the stability in that position, or can we actually put a risk more on the rookie? And it's basically, okay, I'm gonna simplify it. It's risk assessment. Is how do you compensate for the risk that you're taking with bringing in on rookie rather than someone that is more established, and what is also gonna be the benefit of that player. In this case, is Trymbi is gonna be working a lot with Hans Sama, and they already fit pretty good together with each other, and both of them have really similar mindset on how to prepare, how to face new challenges and to learn about the game. So the risk over there, it's getting smaller. Then his comps are already good, which becomes the risk smaller. He's gonna be easy to adapt into the team. He has good mechanics. So basically our only risk is his experience and actually developing him to understand the game even more, to high LEC level and everything. So the risk with Trimby is small, but the potential reward for him exploding, it's a lot higher than what someone established like Vander would have with, because you know what you get with Vander, and even if Trimby is a little bit under Vander, basically his potential is to explode and get a lot more and such. So it's just calculating the risk and seeing what the risk is when you're promoting that rookie, basically.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And you know, the availability of other veteran players and the quality of those available players and free agents, you know, that's going to play into it as well. And how familiar you are with the rookie, you know, promoting a rookie from within your own organization is going to be different from signing a rookie who was playing with a different team or other things like that. So all of that definitely weighs in, and it's difficult being putting together a roster when it's not just on paper, right? So definitely interesting to hear kind of your approach to that and some of the things that go into it.
Yeah, like the best example I think this off season for the misunderstanding and everything was Niski and leader thingy with Fnatic. Why Fnatic didn't go with leader and everything else is, have in mind, first of all, they when they were planning Niski and everything was reckless, and even without reckless, it's upset over there. So look at the players that they have all around the team. And would you completely risk all those players when you know that they're already top two, top three in the region? Would you risk completely getting a new rookie that basically you're flipping a coin? If he explodes and everything else, he's going to carry you some games and everything else. But then if he flips, if he doesn't fit properly in the team, let's say behavior, attitude, play style, and everything else, if he doesn't fit, that team suddenly goes from second, third place, goes fourth, fifth, sixth, simply because they're like, the League of Legends is a lot more than just a player being good or bad. It's a lot about fitting those pieces together. And Niski is at minimum as good as Nemesis, let's say. And at the same time, he brings a lot more stability and consistency to what he plays. Basically, Nemesis was forced into playing those things that he played towards the end, where he supports the team, while Niski is comfortable with playing those things. So you're basically switching a part that is updating your lineup a little bit and making it more consistent behind the scene to make the whole team better, rather than just flip a coin if that player is going to work or not.
Yeah, I'm sure there has been a lot of conversation about the kind of the Niski Nemesis decision, the Niski leader kind of options there. People feel very strongly on either side of that. I think we'll be seeing how that works out with Fnatic.
I think Fnatic ended up with the best possible decision, best possible player that they could have had in that off season. The only person that probably would have been better from the available people that were this off season, the only person that might have been a little bit better is maybe Power of Evil, and that's a big question mark also. Like,
Yeah, very different players, Niski and Power
yeah,
People, that's for
very
sure.
very very different players, and I honestly think Fnatic in this off season did the best. Like, they picked up the best thing that they could have had this off season, and it's not even comparable to all the other options that they could have went and everything else. And I think they did pretty good job considering the cards and everything that they have dealt this
Yeah.
off season.
Well, we're going to be watching closely to see, if your team can contest Fnatic and try to come out ahead of them. If anybody can, unseat G2 as the best team in Europe, I think that's going to be a lot of fun to watch how that will play out. And it could go a lot of different ways still. When players change, you never know how well the team's going to work out. Whether it's going to just click, it's not always going to be as good as it might look on paper. So we'll see. Any bold predictions for how you guys are going to finish?
New meta, new game next year. Actually, I haven't had so much fun playing League of Legends than that new patch and everything. I still spend 30 seconds in the shop finding the items and what I need to buy, but it's gonna be exciting. Bold prediction for us for next year. Oof, I hate doing those. I really hate doing those because I think I jinx them quite often. But I believe at minimum we should be able to reach Worlds. At minimum, our goal is getting to Worlds and performing at Worlds. And everything after that, it's a big bonus, basically. But I also believe that even though G2 looks scary, everyone thinks they improved and everything, there is benefits and negatives of what G2 did. The big factor of Perks and how important he was behind the scenes for that team and how much he led them and everything cannot be discarded. Reckless is not the same type of player as Perks was for that team specifically. Did they update on the AD carry position? For sure. Reckless is the best AD carry in Europe, together with Hans, in my opinion. And they definitely updated in the position, but it's going to be a big question mark on how the team is going to develop around this and how the team is going to be without Perks and his leadership qualities and everything. So for me, they're strong, but they're not unbeatable. And definitely us and Fnatic have the opportunity to challenge them and actually take the title away. If we do it or not is completely up to us next year. But it's not out of the options. It's not as decided as people think it is right now.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I have been saying so. So I agree with you on that. And I wish you the best of luck as you try to break into that group and, find a top 2 finish. So thanks for joining me on the show today, Fly. What's the best way for people to follow you and to follow your work with Rogue?
Twitter the most. It's Fly with double Y, how you see it, my nickname with 90 behind it.
Yeah. Make sure there's a link to that in the show notes for this as well if you guys have trouble finding that. So you can support the True Sight podcast at patreon.com/oracleselixir. You can subscribe on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and also at anchor.fm/truesight. And make sure you check out the Oracle's Elixir Discord server to talk LoL esports, data science, and a lot more. Links for all of those, again, will be in the show notes. This has been the True Sight podcast with Thomas Fly Mihailov, the general manager of Rogue, and I'm Tim Sevenhuisen. Thanks for listening.